Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some Pittsburgh Steelers pick breakdown and analysis. The Pittsburgh Steelers finishing up the 2025 NFL Draft Day, 3 rounds 4 through 7. Let's talk about their selections. Before we start, if you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com, would really appreciate that. So starting off in the 4th round, the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Ohio State edge rusher Jack Sawyer. I know off the top, edge rusher does not feel like a need, and I wouldn't call it a need going into this draft, but Pittsburgh wants to have depth and be really strong top to bottom at outside linebacker, which is where I expect Jack Sawyer to play because it is such a vital part of their defense, a core, the engine of their defense. You had some injuries last year to Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, had to get some outside guys into. The stronger you can be there, the better, because it is so critical to Pittsburgh's success. Sawyer had a really strong season in 2024, 9 sacks, seemed to always make that big clutch play, the big fumble return touchdown in the playoff run for the national title winning Ohio State Buckeye. So he's a guy that's a little limited athletically, a little bit shorter in terms of arm length, but that is not necessarily a deal breaker. Nick Herbig, a smaller, shorter outside linebacker that of course has had plenty of success. Now Sawyer's a different body type. He's bigger, more of a strength power guy. I think will set the edge well against the run. The question is just about the overall upside, athleticism. Maybe not going to be as toolsy as a Nick Herbig, or certainly not a TJ Watt or even Alex Highsmith, but can he be a quality run defender? If you got to play outside linebacker in Pittsburgh, you got to stop the run first and foremost, and then earn your right to rush the passer. That's the saying in Pittsburgh. So I need to do a little more tape study on Sawyer, to be honest with you. I did not write the report on him, and I know that edge was not necessarily that screaming need coming into the draft, so I'm going to double back and check him out. We have a report up on him on the site, but I certainly understand the choice in terms of the player, the projection from that Ohio State defense, where it is that cleaner projection about how, the guy played at Ohio State pretty similar to how he'll probably play in Pittsburgh. So that just kind of makes it an easier evaluation, trying to project him up from college to the NFL. And I certainly understand the rationale for the position, even though you have Watt and Highsmith and Herbig, really important to have good depth at outside linebacker. 5th round, Pittsburgh trading down a small deal with the Kansas City Chiefs, moved down a handful of spots, picked up an extra 7th round pick, and Pittsburgh still coming away with Y.A. Black, the big defensive lineman out of Iowa. Now, I viewed him as a nose tackle. Pittsburgh may view him more apparently as a defensive end, or at least somebody that can play up and down the line. Carl Dunbar, who spoke after the selection, was really adamant that Keanu Benton's going to stay at nose tackle. He's been saying that for a while now, so we'll see on Black. He's big. He does profile more interior, but he has played defensive end. Dunbar mentioning him as a 4-tech. He has good length. He's listed like 6'5", 335 with 35-inch arms. And so, we'll see if he gets his weight down a little bit, if he's going to play a little more defensive end. Kind of questions about his lateral movement, overall athleticism, his balance. And so you thought maybe that's more of your typical interior space eater. We'll see what happens there. So I understand certainly the need, and there's a big theme of Pittsburgh to get better up front 7 with Derek Carman, with Jack Sawyer, and with Y.A. Black to really get strong and stout at the point of attack where you saw Pittsburgh wear down so much. I do wonder if there's kind of some element of diminishing returns. They've added so much kind of lower level defensive line help. It's going to help raise the floor of the room, bring out competition, and let Pittsburgh truly take the best players. But with all the guys they signed, Otomoya from Jacksonville, and re-signed Loudermilk, and Daniel Quale gets signed, and you have Logan Lee coming back off injury last year, and even as of right now, at least Dean Lowry, although I don't expect Dean Lowry to even probably make it to training camp. It's a lot of, I don't want to call it mud at the wall, but it's certainly hoping a lot of that depth, sticks out and the cream rises to the top. So I get the intent there. I just kind of wonder, okay, what's the role? What's the purpose? What is kind of the path there for Y.A. Black to play? But I think Pittsburgh just wants to make sure they have options, and whoever they end up carrying on the 53 truly has earned the roster spot and really kind of increase that competition come training camp. So in the 6th round, Pittsburgh taking quarterback Will Howard out of Ohio State. And you guys have heard me talk about it. I had a video breakdown on Will Howard. I'll link that below, my thoughts on Will Howard, and I was a big fan of him, and I'm rarely the type of guy that says take a quarterback after the 1st round. I've always said I'm kind of go big or go home guy. Either take one 1st round, get that franchise guy, or after that, just ignore it, go sign a veteran, because the later round developmental guys, it's just hard to develop them, I think, hard to get them playing time, and they usually, emphasis usually, do not work out. But Howard was an exception. He was my third-rated quarterback in this class behind Shedeur Sanders, who fell to the 5th round in Cleveland, and then, of course, Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick to Tennessee. Just to watch his play at Ohio State last year and the way he finished the season, obviously for the national title-winning Ohio State Buckeyes, was really impressive. I think his touch, his accuracy, his layering of the football is really impressive. You don't always see that from a lot of quarterbacks who only know one speed, only throw fastballs, and just can't place the ball from the pocket, and how it really works well from within the pocket. I know he had a tough start to the season, had that terrible Michigan game, some processing stuff early in the year, but when you transfer, you're going in from one system to another at Kansas State, there's going to be some bumps in the road. It's not going to be a perfect, seamless transition when you're in one place like he was at K-State for several years. Didn't transfer out despite, some competition and other guys coming in and him getting benched at one point. He battled Skylar Thompson at K-State, who's going to battle now in Pittsburgh, which is kind of funny. So, you didn't expect it to be completely flawless and just the seamless transition of getting better and better at Ohio State in terms of just never having any kind of letdown or any sort of struggle. But he overcame that. Ohio State did as a team to go on that great run to just destroy Oregon in the playoffs after losing to them narrowly in the first matchup and then winning the national title game. I know Howard had a bunch of talent around him and Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith, but you go watch the tape, those guys are making good plays, but it's not like they're making crazy catches that bail out Will Howard. I mean, those balls are being dropped in the bucket, and Howard, the deep ball, the accuracy, the touch for vertical outside receivers like Pickens and DK Metcalf, that's a good fit. But just a smart guy that played in a more pro-style system that asked more of him in terms of checks and audibles and cadences than a lot of college quarterbacks. I think that endeared itself well. Really smart guy on and off the field. He was recruited by Ivy League schools coming out. He had a 1,300 SAT, so just a guy that's really smart, and I think Pittsburgh liked that a lot. So even though I'm generally of the mindset, don't draft a quarterback in the 6th round, it's an exception here. I'm really happy about this Will Howard pick. He's not going to play his rookie year. I think Pittsburgh still assumes and still hopes that Aaron Rodgers will sign, and even failing that, Mason Rudolph is going to certainly be ahead of Will Howard, but I think Pittsburgh likes the developmental traits he shows. With their first of 2 7th-round selections, the Steelers selected Carson Bruner, the inside linebacker out of Washington at number 226 overall, and this one felt like the free space on the bingo card of the Steelers mock draft. It was in my mock draft, it was in Dave Bryant's mock draft, it was in a lot of Steelers mock drafts, and just the dots too easy to connect. I know Pittsburgh said it had nothing to do with the last name Bruner, but anytime you draft in the son of a guy that's in your building, Mark Bruner, former Steelers tight end and current area scout who scouts out west and lives in Washington, and of course scouted his son, was at his pro day, you just kind of know that player better. You feel better about the projection. Now, Bruner certainly is not getting by on his name alone. He had a really strong season in 2024, over 100 tackles, 3 interceptions, physical, downhill, thumper, team captain, ran well at his pro day. He ran, or at the combine, I forget what it was, 4.58 though was his 40 time, and so there is really good tape, and that's raising the floor of the room, compete with Mark Robinson. You don't know what Cole Holcomb's going to be coming off that knee injury in 2023. You hope he can stick around. It's just hard to say. And so Pittsburgh usually carries 5 inside linebackers. So Bruner will help out on special teams. He played a ton of special teams at Washington, was really effective there before becoming that starter and big-time defensive piece for the Huskies defense. So again, not a need, but day 3, you want to find value, guys who will raise the floor of your room, make your roster better, have a chance to compete, contribute on special teams. Pittsburgh special teams were really poor at the end of last season. Bruner will do that. And then finally at 229, right after Carson Bruner, the Pittsburgh Steelers, with their final selection of the 2025 NFL Draft, took Dante Kent, the cornerback out of Central Michigan. And I'll admit, not on my radar, not a name I was familiar with, not really a buzzy name that we had a scouting report or really a whole lot of information on. So certainly one I'm going to have to go back and watch. I know surface level stuff about his overall stats and where he played and kind of the reason why they drafted him. He was also noted as a punt returner by the Steelers. He was the punt returner for Central Michigan last year, had 1 return for a touchdown, 72 yards. It was late in the game against Central Connecticut State. They were up like 45-10. And Kent ran it back, but he's got speed. He ran 4.38 at his pro day. He's played inside corner, played in the slot, he's played outside. He was kind of splitting between outside and slot the past 2 years. He played more slot in 2023 and 2024. He was primarily an outside corner in 2022, so there's some inside-outside flexibility there. Seems to be really aggressive, kind of feast-famine corner who can make a lot of plays in the football, but can also get burned. Watching the Notre Dame game, he got burned for a long touchdown, so he is that really aggressive corner that can bite on those double moves, but it'll also make some plays underneath in terms of separating and breaking up passes. His interception production is really light. He's got 2 career picks in like 5 years there, and his 2 interceptions came, I think, his first 2 years in college. He didn't have one his last 3 seasons at CMU, so not a lot of ball production in terms of taking the ball away, but he's got a ton of breakups. He had double-digit breakups, I think, in 2022 and 2023, and had a handful in 2024. So we'll see exactly how he gets used. It's been rare for Pittsburgh to use defensive players in the return unit on punts and kicks. Usually it's offensive skill guys because Tomlin just trusts them more because they're touching the football all the time. We'll see, though, if Kent can get a look there. Danny Smith was talking about him after the pick, so I'm going to imagine there'll be an opportunity there. Maybe punts, although Kevin Austin's held that spot pretty admirably last year. Maybe Kent can do something on kicks, even though that's not exactly in his background. But some DB depth there. That one surprised me for sure, as I'm sure it did most people. We'll have to look into him some more. So certainly not going to say that I love this pick, but I do kind of get the rationale. I'm sure Pittsburgh thought they were not going to sign him as a undrafted free agent, so they wanted to take him with their final draft pick. Just quickly to note the undrafted free agents, those are not official as of this recording, at least. Maybe someone else came in too. Let me look at the list here in our Steelers Depot tracker, but as of last check, there were 6 signed, and let's see here. Looks like maybe a 7th had come in as well. You know, Pittsburgh really signed a strong undrafted free agent pool. Typically, the classes are really underwhelming, but so far, I like what I see from what's being reported out there. Rock Taylor from Memphis has had a good career there with the Tigers. He's got some size, and so that's a guy I thought maybe could have been drafted. That's a good pick. I got to learn more about some of these guys. DJ Thomas Jones from South Alabama. Pittsburgh gave him a really hefty $30K signing bonus. He may play some fullback, kind of a stocky David Johnson type of build. Sebastian Castro's apparently signed. He's a versatile hitter, a little undersized, didn't test well, but I like that undrafted free agent value. Aiden Williams from Minnesota Duluth's experienced D2 kid that went to the Shrine Bowl and has some athleticism, some good experience, probably played guard at the NFL level. Ben Saul's a big-legged, left-footed kicker from Pitt who had a big season in 2024, 6 of 7 from 50+, and so that's a guy obviously they're very familiar with. He's got a big leg. And then a guy that I really liked that I'm surprised came to Pittsburgh, J.J. Galbraith from South Dakota. He's a FCS All-American, really athletic move tight end. Had a shoulder injury in 2024, but was still productive, had really strong testing at his pro day, and so I was really happy to see Galbraith come in. They've had a lot of FCS tight ends that have had success recently. I'm not saying Galbraith will be the next Tucker Kraft or somebody like that, but that's a guy I thought had really good tape, just had the injury, the lower level of competition, but made some big plays downfield, and just a good athlete that moved around formationally in that South Dakota offense, so I was really excited to see him on the list. So overall, the intent of Pittsburgh's draft was clear: get stronger defensively with the front 7, really stop the run where they struggled to do so last year, and then kind of add some higher floor players into the draft, and then I think get good value in Will Howard. I think overall Pittsburgh got good value in this draft. I don't know if I love this draft on paper at the time as much as I did Omar Khan's first 2 drafts in 2023 and 2024. This one felt a little more narrowly focused, a little more niche. Not saying that's a bad thing, but I just don't know if I see necessarily the crazy upside potential with this class as they do the other ones, but I think there's some good picks at the top. I do think there is upside with Derek Carman, Caleb Johnson, 21-year-old players coming off their breakout years in 2024 that can rise, that can ascend. That's impressive. So it feels like I'm not big into grades, and I'm still kind of sorting out my thoughts here, but a solid B draft for Pittsburgh. But there are some picks I really like with Harmon, with Will Howard, and so those are kind of the 2 that I really looked at and said I was really, really happy with those selections. And of course, you understand they're without a second-round pick in this one because it's DK Metcalf is their de facto second-round pick. So it's harder to compare apples to apples this draft to the other ones because Pittsburgh, in 2023, they had 2 second-round picks and, of course, had their picks in 2024. So you understand this draft was never going to probably meet those expectations of feeling quite as good off the rip from just the draft picks alone. But no second-round pick was going to produce more or be better than DK Metcalf, so you have to understand that framing as well. So those are my thoughts on day 3, the undrafted free agent pool, and just the Steelers draft overall. We'll have a ton more coverage, videos, and breakdowns and articles on the site, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys watching. Please like this video, subscribe, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.